Welcome to another video. This is New Manchester, and before I get into this video, I received a strike from YouTube. It was a strike from a video that they removed from my channel, and the name of that video is 78 Reasons Why Blue Pill Men Suck. Someone reported me. Then YouTube saw the video and they took it down and gave me a strike. And also in all of this, they removed the video that I posted on this channel. And it was a brand new video. It was titled why people in America eat the foods that they eat, and why do they eat it. YouTube removed that video along with the video that they gave me a strike on. The 78 Reasons Why Blue Pill Men Suck. They removed the video about Americans eating unhealthy foods and why did they eat it. They removed that video and said that it was too long. Then they removed that video along with the video that they gave me a strike on about the blue pill men. Gave me a strike, so I got a strike on this channel. Then when I tried to re-upload the video that they took down about Americans eating the foods that they eat and what foreigners view what Americans eat. Yeah, that's what the videos was about. They blocked it and said that you can't upload videos at this time because this channel has way too many strikes. So it's crazy. So the strike was removed from another video that they took down. You had to wait and wait and wait for that strike to go away. Then someone reported me on this video that I did about blue pill men. They removed it and gave me a strike on that video, and they deemed the video that I did that video as bullying and harassment. I never bullied and I never harassed anybody in my entire life at all. So I got this strike on this channel. So technically, I'm gonna see if I can upload this video on this channel. See if they're gonna block me. So I haven't uploaded any videos in a while, and I'm taking a break right now. So yeah. Anyway, enough of that. Let me get into this video that I want to do. It's a post that I found online, and it's titled 3 Reasons the American Revolution Was a Mistake. I did a video about what will America be like if it stayed on as the 13 original British colonies on the east coast of North America, and what kind of country it will morph into. Well, I did that video. It's up on my channel. It got a lot of views and it was disastrous, and I received a comment from someone stating that the video didn't make any sense. So I'm going to do myself justice and do another video like this, but by reading a post from Vox, so I'm going to do this video again about what will America be like if it stayed on as the 13 original British colonies on the east coast of North America, and what kind of country it will morph into. So I'm going to read this post from Vox to help me out on this. Okay, it's titled, this post from Vox, it's titled 3 Reasons the American Revolution Was a Mistake. Happy 4th. And it's by Dylan Matthews, and it was posted on July the 3rd, 2019 at 9:55 a.m. Let's clear my throat here. And it reads as follows. This 4th of July, let's not mince words. American independence in 1776 was a monumental mistake. We should be mourning the fact that we left the United Kingdom, not cheering it. The United Kingdom was basically Great Britain at the time. It wasn't the UK. I mean, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, and England. I think they merged together after that. After they merged together, they became the UK. When the United States was the 13 original British colonies on the east coast of North America, the United Kingdom was known as Great Britain. So they're wrong on that, saying that we left the UK. No, we left Great Britain. The UK was known as Great Britin around 1776. Okay, let me continue. Of course, elevating the wisdom of the American Revolution means dealing with counterfactuals. As an historian would tell you, this is a messy business. We absolutely can't be entirely sure how America would have fared if it had stayed in the British Empire longer, perhaps gaining independence a century or so later, along with Canada. This is my opinion. Canada wouldn't exist. I mean, if Great Britain didn't lose America, I mean, Canada wouldn't exist. But some people say that Britain created two separate colonies in North America. It got most of New France after defeating the French in the French and Indian War, or the 7 Years' War. So that's probably that's probably what will happen. Okay, but I'm not reasonably confident a world in which the revolution never happened would be better than the one we live in now, for three main reasons. Slavery would have been abolished earlier. American Indians wouldn't faced rampant persecution, but not the outright ethnic cleansing Andrew Jackson and other American leaders perpetrated, and America would have a parliamentary system of government that makes policy making easier and lessen the risk of democratic collapse. Okay. Abolishing would have come faster without independence. The main reason the revolution was a mistake is that the British Empire, in all likelihood, would have abolished slavery earlier than the U.S. did, and with less bloodshed. Abolishing in most of the British Empire occurred. Abolishing in most of the British Empire occurred in 1834, following the passage of the Slavery Abolition Act. That left out India, but slavery was banned there too in 1843. In England itself, slavery was illegal, at least going back to 1772. That's decades earlier than the United States. This alone is enough to make the case against the revolution. Decades less slavery is a massive humanitarian gain that most certainly dominates whatever gains comes to the colonies from independence. The main benefit of the revolution to colonists was that it gave more political power to America's white male majority. For the vast I said this word wrong. I said this word all wrong, so let me go reread this. The main benefit of the revolution to colonists was that it gave more political power to America's white male minority. For the vast majority of the country, its women, slaves, American Indians, the difference between differentiation in an independent America and deformation in a British-controlled colonial America was negligible. If anything, the latter would have been perceptible, since at least women and minorities would have been signed out for disenfranchisement. From the vantage point of most of the country, who cares if white men had to suffer through what everyone else did for a while longer, especially if them doing so means slaves gained decades of free life. It's true that had the U.S. stayed, Britain would have had much more to gain from the continuance of slavery than it did without America. It controlled a number of dependencies with slave economics, notably Jamaica and other islands in the West Indies, but nothing on the scale of the American South. Adding that into the mix would have made abolishing significantly more costly. But the South's political influence within the British Empire would have been vastly smaller than its influence in the early American Republic. For one thing, the South, like all other British dependencies, lacked representation in Parliament. The southern states were colonies, and their interests were discontinued by the British government accordingly. But the South was also simply smaller as a chunk of the British Empire's economy at the time that it was as a portion of America's. The British Crown had less to lose from the abolishment of slavery with white elites in an independent America did. Okay. The revolutionaries understood this. Okay, let me reread this again. Okay. The British Crown had less to lose from the abolishment of slavery than white elites in an independent America did. The revolutionaries understood this. Indeed, a desire to pursue slavery helped fuel Southern support of the war. In 1775, After the war had begun in Massachusetts, the Earl of Damore, the then governor of Virginia, offered the slaves of offered the slaves of rebels re, offered the slaves of rebels freedom if they came and fought for the British cause. Eric Hastold, a PhD student in history at Columbia, notes that the proclamation united white Virginians behind the rebel effort. He quotes Phil Fidman, who was traveling through Virginia when the proclamation was made, saying, "The inhabitants of this colony are deeply alarmed at this infernal scheme." It seems to quicken all in revolution to overpower him at any risk. The anger of Damore's emancipation ran so deep that Thomas Jefferson included it as a grievance in a draft of the Declaration of Independence. That's right, the Declaration could have included their conspiracy our slaves as a reason for independence. I'm sorry about stumbling over some words, people. I'm just reading this and I'm just running across some words that I can't pronounce. So, for white slaveholders in the South, Simon Chimera writes in Rough Crossings his history of black loyalism during the Revolution. The war was a revolution, first and foremost, mobilizing to protect slavery. Slaves also understood that their odds of liberation were better under British rule than independence. Over a course of the war, about 100,000 African slaves escaped, died, or were killed, and tens of thousands enlisted in the British Army, far more than joined the rebels. Black Americans' quest for liberty was mostly tied to fighting for the British, the side in the war for independence that offered them freedom. Historian Greg Nash writes in The Forgotten Fifth, his history of African Americans in the Revolution. At the end of the war, thousands who helped the British were evacuated. Freedom in Nova Scotia, Jamaica, in England. Okay. I think that I didn't say this right. Okay, The Forgotten Fifth. His history of African Americans in the Revolution. At the end of the war, thousands who helped the British were evacuated to freedom in Nova Scotia, Jamaica, and England. This is not to say the British were motivated by a desire to help slaves. Of course, they weren't. But American slaves choose a side in the Revolution, the side of the crown. They were no fools. They knew that independence meant more power for the plantation class that had enslaved them, and that a British victory offered far greater prospects for freedom. Okay. Independence was bad for Native Americans. Starting with the Proclamation of 1763, the British colonial government placed firm limits on westward settlement in the United States. It wasn't motivated by an artistic desire to keep American Indians from being subjuged or anything. It just wanted to avoid border conflicts. But all the same, policies enraged American settlers who were appalled that the British would seem to side with Indians over white men. The British government remained willing to conceive of Native Americans as subjects of the crown, similar to the colonists. Ethan Summit writes in Native Americans in the American Revolution, American colonists refused to see Indians as fellow subjects. Instead, they viewed them as obsoletes. They viewed them as obstacles in the way of their dream of land ownership and trading wealth. This view is reflected in the Declaration of Independence, which attacks King George III for backing merciless Indian savages. American independence made the proclamation void here. It's not void in Canada. Indeed, there the 1763 proclamation is viewed as a fundamental document providing rights to self-government to First Nation tribes. It's mentioned explicitly in the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, Canada's Bill of Rights, which protects any rights or freedoms that have been reconciliated by the Royal Proclamation of October the 7th, 1763, for all Aboriginal people. Historian Colin Calloway writes in The Scratch of a Pen, 1763, in the Transformation of North America, that the proclamation still forms the basis for dealings between Canada's government and Canada's First Nations. And unsurprisingly, Canada didn't see Indian wars and removals as large and sweeping as occurred in the U.S. They still committed horrible, infeasible crimes. Canada, under British rule and after, brutally mistreated Aboriginal people, not least through government-inflicted famines and the state's horrific seizures of children from their families so they could attend residential schools. But the country didn't experience a westward expansion as violent and deadly as that pursued by the U.S. government and settlers. Absent the revolution, Britain probably would have moved into Indian lands, but fewer people who have died. None of this is to minimize the extent of British and Canadian crimes against natives. It's a hard case to make because even though I don't think Canada's treatment of natives was better than the United States, it was still terrible. The Canadian NC Jean Hera tells me in an email, Hera has also written a great case against American independence. On the plus side, for Canada, there were no outright genocides like the Trail of Tears besides from the Bentons of Newfoundland. The population statistics are telling. 1.4 million people of Aboriginal descent in Canada as against 5.2 million in the USA. Given the fact that America is far more hospitable as an environment and has 10 times has 10 times the non-Aboriginal population. That's telling. Independence also enabled acquisition of territory in the West through the Louisiana Purchase and the Mexican-American War. That ensued that America's particularly rapacious brand of colonialism enshared yet more native peoples. And while Mexico and France were no angels, what America brought was worse. Before the war, the Apache and the Comanche were in frequent violent conflict with the Mexican government, but they were Mexican citizens. The U.S. refused to make them American citizens for a century. And then, of course, it violently forced them into reservations, killing many in the process. American Indians would have still, in all likelihood, faced violent and oppressive absent American independence, just as First Nations people in Canada did. But American scale ethnic cleansing would have occurred. And like America's slaves, American Indians knew this. Most tribes sided with the British or stayed neutral. Only a small minority backed the rebels. Generally speaking, when a cause is opposed by the two most vulnerable groups in a society, it's probably a bad idea. So it is with the cause of American independence. America would have a better system of government if we'd stuck with Britain. Honestly, I think earlier abolishment alone is enough to make the case against the revolution, and it combined with less horrible treatment of American Indians is more than enough. But it's worth taking a second to phrase a less important but still significant conquest of the U.S. sticking with Britain. But it's worth taking a second to phrase a less important but still significant conquest of the U.S. sticking with Britain. We would have, in all likelihood, become a parliamentary democracy rather than a presidential one. And parliamentary democracies are a lot better, and parliamentary democracies are a lot better than presidential ones. They're significantly less likely to collapse into dictatorship because they don't lead to intervostal conflicts between, say, the president and the legislator. They lead to much less gridlock. In the U.S., activists wanting to put a price on carbon emissions spend years trying to put together a coalition to make it happen, mobilizing sympathetic businesses and pharmatropists and attempting to make partisan coalition, and they still fail to pass cap and trade after millions of dollars in man hours. In the UK, the Conservative government decided it wanted a carbon tax. So there was a carbon tax, and the coal sector was taking a beating. Just like that, passing big necessary legislation, in the case legislation That's literally necessarily to pass the literally necessarily to save the planet is a whole lot easier with parliaments than with presidential systems. There are, of course, expectations. You need only look at Theresa May's years of struggle to put together a Brexit package that satisfies her party. But it's notable that the fiasco began with a devotion from parliamentary government. When David Cameron decided to punt the question of leaving the European Union to the voters, it was the introduction of another necessary decision-making entry very common in the veto point-heavy U.S. system that created the crisis in the first place. There is no trivial matter. Effective passage of legislation has huge humanitarian consequences. Excuse me. It makes measures of planetary importance, like carbon taxes, easier to get through. They still face political pushback, of course. Australia's tax got repealed after all. But they can be enacted in the first place, which is far harder in the U.S. system, and the efficiency of parliamentary systems enables larger social welfare programs that reduce inequality and improve life for poor citizens. Government spending in the parliamentary countries is about 5% of GDP higher after controlling for other factors than in presidential countries. If you believe in redistribution, that's very good news indeed. The Westminster system of parliamentary democracy also benefits from weaker upper houses. The U.S. is saddled with a Senate that gives Wyoming the same power as California, which has more than 66 times as many people. Worse, the Senate is equal in power to the lower, more representative House. Most countries following the British system have upper houses. Only New Zealand was wise enough to abolish it. But they're fare weaker than their lower houses. The Canadian Senate and the House of Lords affected legislation only in rare cases. At most, they can hold things up a bit or force minor tweaks. They aren't capable of obstruction anywhere near the level of the U.S. Senate. Finally, we'd still likely be a monarchy under the rule of Elizabeth II, or Queen Elizabeth II, or the Queen Moon. And constitutional monarchy is the best system of government known to man. Generally speaking, in a parliamentary system, you need a head of state who is not the prime minister to serve as a dissertation arbiter when there are disputes about how to form a government. Say if the largest party should be allowed to form a minority government, or if smaller parties should be allowed to form a coalition. To name a recent example from Canada, that head of state is usually a figurehead president elected by the parliament Germany, Italy, or the people, Ireland, Finland, or a monarchy. And the monarchies are better. Monarchies are more effective than presidents, precisely because they lack any semblance of legislativity. It would be offensive for Queen Elizabeth or her representatives in Canada, New Zealand, etc. Domestic in domestic policies. Indeed, when the Governor General of Australia did so in 1975, it set off a constitutional crisis. That made it clear such behavior would not be tolerated. But figurehead presidents have some degree of democratic leniency in the typically former politicians, then enable a greater rate of cinemacles, like when Italian President Giorgio Napolitano schemed successfully to remove Silvio Berlusconi as prime minister due to at least in part of German Chancellor Angela Merkel's in retreat to do so. Napolitano is the rule rather than the expectation. Oxford political scientists Perrin Cernan and Erwin Morgan Jones have found that presidents, whenever elected indirectly by Parliament or directly by the people, are likelier to allow governments to change without new elections than monarchies are. In other words, they're likelier to change the government without any democratic input at all. Monarchies is perhaps paradoxically the more democratic option. Sorry about that, folks. I was stumbling around. I was stumbling over a lot of words. I hope me reading this post made a lot of sense to you. I hope you got something out of this. I'm just going to give my thoughts on it. Okay. I'm going to give my thoughts on the Vox post. 3 reasons the American Revolution was a mistake. Um, yeah. Would America be a better country if it stayed within the British Empire and remained as the 13 British colonies on the east coast of North America and got its independence like later on in centuries like Canada and just become a country the way Canada did. And I heard about Canada. Canada didn't become a fully independent country until 1982. That's what I heard. Yeah, I think the U.S. will probably go down that same route. And plus, if America, I'm gonna say if America lost the American Revolutionary War and remained the 13 British colonies on the east coast of North America, the founding fathers will be executed by the British under King George III. Yeah, like Alexander Hamilton. Who else? Benjamin Franklin, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson. Yeah, those guys would be executed. They'd be killed. Um, let's see, America. Okay, America, I say morphs into a different type of country. It wouldn't be called the United States. I think I don't know what it would be called really. Some say Britain created separate colonies in North America. Modern day Canada and modern day United States. Yeah, well actually the colony of north of the 13 British colonies. I don't know. Well they yeah France held some colonies around like modern day Quebec and parts of Canada and parts of the U.S. I think they lost those colonies to Britain in the French and Indian War, or the 7 Years' War. Is before the American Revolution, the American Revolution, um, or the American Revolutionary War. It lost. Yeah, France lost the New France colony and ceded it to Britain, and I think Britain created a separate colony that's separate from the 13 British colonies that became the United States. Yeah, I think I don't know. I say that Canada wouldn't exist if Britain never lost America. I don't know. I could be wrong, but but I think they. But someone said that they created separate colonies, and yeah, the American expansion would be, I think, would move a lot slower, or it would be slow, or it probably wouldn't exist at all. I don't know. Yeah, say that also Native Americans would they be treated better under the British than Americans? I think some made one of the tribes, the Cherokee Indians, made them will make one of the civilized Native American tribes subjects. I think they'll make them subjects because I think the Cherokee made their own alphabet and their language and all. I don't know. I'm not that very keen on history, but I can give it a shot on this. I can give a shot on this. So just bear with me, folks. I mean, if you have any interest in watching this video, let's see. Yeah. Well, let's see. Let's see. The capital of this alternate America that that was created from the 13 British colonies. If the American colonies or the British colonies stayed within the British Empire, it will morph into a different country. The capital, I say, will be Philadelphia, and a parliament will be put there. Um, I say the parliament will be like a cross between the UK and Canada, and America as a whole will be. It'll be a. I think it will be a mixture of the UK, Canada, and Australia. I don't know. I'm just giving my thoughts. Also, I did some little research on how would Americans today, me included, how would we talk in this alternate America. Um, let's see. It would. I'll say. I did some research and I took a look at Bermuda, an island in the Atlantic Ocean that was still part of the UK. I mean, the people there, the white and black people there, their accent is basically a cross between the American accent and the British accent, and I think people of America will be speaking English with that accent today. I don't know. Um, I don't know. Let's see. We'll probably use the same currency as the UK, or we probably have the currency of, I say, Australia or New Zealand or Canada. We'll probably have polymer banknotes, colorful pieces of paper, banknotes, dollar bills. They're in different colors. It's polymer, made of polymer, not paper. And the money, the coins, will have like the coins will have like Queen Elizabeth II on them, because Queen Elizabeth II or any person who's the king or queen of the UK will be on our money, because they will be our monarch, or our head of state. I'm just saying, would a foreign policy would be better? Yeah. And also, the Native Americans and Black Americans wouldn't be treated better. They would be treated like dirt. You know. And I think I heard that. Yeah, read that post. The British weren't were against slavery, but it doesn't mean that like deep down inside, I think they were for it or against it. I don't know. Yeah, and also let me stop the camera here. There's some people who live on some islands off the coast of North Carolina. Um, it's some type of weird English that they speak. I think it's called like Tide White or something like that. I can't pronounce it. Um, yeah, they sound like Australians, and they sound a little like people from Britain. So I guess that dialect would prosper and exist today if the U.S. Never got into the American Revolutionary War or lost it, and remained within and just remain within the British Empire. I mean, that dialect that's spoken by those people would live on. It would be strong. So yeah, but I don't know. So I'm just giving some thoughts here. Let's see. What else? Oh yeah. People the United Empire loyalists who were loyal to the crown when they left the 13 British colonies that rebelled against Britain. They left and went to Canada because they stayed loyal to the crown. And, if America or the 13 British colonies on the east coast of North America remained within the British Empire and remain within the British Empire, those people who escaped to Canada will basically stay here. So I'm just giving ideas what America would look like if it remained within the British Empire as the 13 British colonies on the east coast of North America. I'm just giving ideas, and hope I'm making a lot of sense on this. Okay, I can give more ideas on an alternate on the excuse me. Yes, my dyslexia is kicking in. Okay, I can give more ideas on what America will be like. Let's see. The population of Native Americans will be booming. It will be through the roof. I mean, there'll be a lot of Native Americans today. Um, Yeah, because they wouldn't. Because I think they wouldn't be killed off by war and diseases under the British. Because I think the British will let them have land. But yeah, speaking of Native Americans, I heard what happened in Canada. Unmarked graves at a school in British Columbia that led to like the death of Native American children being killed. You know, having their Native American or indigenous heritage taken away from them as quote unquote beat the Indian out of them. And I heard that was just sickening. And here in the U.S., I mean, on here in the U.S., Native American tribes, were shoved on reservations, and Indian reservations are bad. They're like third world nations. Like people are struggling and suffering. Like people are turning to alcohol and eating unhealthy foods that are not good for them, and they're dying. So that's pretty bad. Like someone told me that I think colonialism is good. And to be honest with you, I don't think it's good. It's bad. It's terrible. That led to like Native Americans here in North America and in South America in general getting their lands taken away by the white man. It's bad. It's wrong. So will the British be treated better? I mean, excuse me. I mean, will the Native Americans and Black Americans be treated better under the British than the Americans? I don't know. I mean, they will be treated better, but they also will be treated like crap. Um, hence, racism, and and foreign policy under a alternate America that stayed loyal and stayed with Britain through the British Empire. I mean, will the foreign policy will be better? Hmm. Reading that post from Vox, yeah, it will be a lot better. And they also said on the Vox post that a parliamentary system will be easier and better than a presidential one. Yeah, and going back to a parliament being put in Philadelphia, which will be the capital of this alternate America that stayed loyal to the crown through the British Empire and becoming a alternate country. Yeah, a parliament will be set in Philadelphia, and I think Independence Hall will be the parliament. I don't know in Philadelphia. I don't know. It probably would. Um, yeah. And plus, we'll have a lot of parties like Canada do. Like, okay, Canada has the Liberal Party, the Conservative Party, the NDP, the Green Party, the Bleu Québécois, and the People's Party. We'll probably have all those parties within that parliament, but they'll be called something different, so I would know. Um, we'll have a prime minister instead of a president. You know, yeah. So that's probably how that's how it would be. And probably those hardcore American patriots today, they'll be running around being pissed and said this, shit, shit, we'll be a better country if we were independent. Yeah, they'll be bitter. They'll be bitter and shit. They'll be angry. I mean, so you know, the stuff that they would be talking about, that they talk about today, it'll be whack job talk. It'll be crazy talk. They'll be viewed as wackos. So, yeah, that's how those American patriots will be like. They'll be a bunch of wackos. They'll be seen as wackos, and everything that they say will be wackos. So a lot of them will be in mental hospitals today. So that's what will be my thoughts on what America would be like if it remained within the British Empire and avoid the American Revolutionary War, or lose that war to Britain. I mean, yeah, and become a entirely different country. I mean, it wouldn't be perfect. It will have a lot of problems. So, and also I think YouTube wouldn't exist, or it'd probably be something different. I don't know. So that's all I gotta say in this video, and hope this video isn't that long. All right, cheers.